my gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, hi Susane.
Hi.
So we're here today celebrating International Women's Day in this amazing conference called the Web3 Women Summit here in Lisbon, Portugal. And I'm super happy to be with you. So before we start speaking about Web3 and about the purpose of this conference, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
So thank you, Natacha. I'm very happy to be here. I have been involved in gender equality, woman empowerment since 2017, several different initiatives focused on refugees, people with disabilities, women from vulnerable communities. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm very engaged to the movement. And then I'm from Brazil. I live here in Lisbon. It's been almost 2 years. I joined the Web3 space since 2020 first, working in a ReFi project. For those who are not familiar with what is ReFi, it's regenerative finance. It's a movement about how we can leverage all of these tools, these most advanced technologies to do good in the world, to regenerate our planet, to create prosperity, empower local communities. So that's how I got involved into this space. Mm-hmm. And yeah, very happy to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much for sharing. And that's amazing. You've seemed to have so much involvement also in creating a better world, I would say, whether it's like on gender equality, also having more solution for our environment. So I'd love to know more about how did you actually get into Web3 and in ReFi, because it's a new space, it's a new ecosystem. And mixing that with ReFi, you know, with like a technology that will help this actual technology get better and have a better sustainable world, it's super interesting. So can you tell us more about how you actually got into Web3 and ReFi?
Yes, it was very by accident, not intentional at all.
It's always like this.
Yeah. So what was intentional, since I was working in a hospitality group with marketing, which is my main background, working with marketing. And then I started getting involved in the internal committee focused on women empowerment. And I felt so passionate about that I really wanted to work in something with a purpose, with an impact. And then I started looking for opportunities to really work with empowerment of women or vulnerable communities as a whole. And then that's how I got into the space, because luckily I started to work in this project called Impact Market. It's a Portuguese startup. They were first focusing on fighting extreme poverty by distributing unconditional basic income to communities all around the world. Then expanded to other services such as microcredit, learn and earn. And then I didn't know at the time nothing related to Web3 crypto. What I heard at the time was a lot about the speculation, the market dynamics, and Bitcoin, Ethereum. But well, I don't really have a technical background. I'm not such an investor, so it was a bit overwhelming. I was a bit afraid of getting involved at the time, but then starting to work at Impact Market, I could see that Web3, ReFi, it was about so many other things, all the possibility that these new technologies, they represent in solving so many relevant problems that we have as a society nowadays. So it was a pretty exciting way on joining the space. And now I'm really going down the rabbit hole of ReFi and getting absolutely inspired to see so many amazing projects all around the world, from carbon credits and how you're tokenizing and creating incentive systems to reinforce recycling, to take plastic out of the oceans, DMRV solutions to reward land stewards protecting natural ecosystems, and basic income helping vulnerable communities and helping with giving access to finance to people who are unbanked and underbanked all around the world, and projects valuing the knowledge of native populations, indigenous, and how we can use all of these amazing tools and values that blockchain brings to all of us, all of these values of transparency, decentralization, reinforcing ownership of all of the users in the space. So the more I get to know about it, the more I get like, excited. Wow, that's it. That's what I want to do in my life.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And congrats also for following your purpose and following, you know, that boiling energy of yours, you know, that pulled you into working in something that actually means something to you and also where you can have impact. I think a lot of us sometimes have this boiling energy, but we don't have the privilege or we don't take the time to listen to that. So we do other stuff, and that's okay after life also leads us somewhere else. But that's great. So Impact Market was based it was using blockchain technology, basically.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm curious to know, because in my Web3 journey, I've seen it as well. When we speak about Web3 to our friends, you know, our family, people, they like the term Web3 blockchain, you know, those key terms, they scare off a lot of the time. So I'm wondering how you actually learned, well, you were there, so I guess you learned also by working there, but what were your main way of learning about this environment, and especially about understanding the opportunities that this technology can bring for the future?
Yeah, there was, for me, I was very lucky in the sense of by working with communication, we need to translate what the project is about to the audiences that we are targeting. And then in the case of Impact Market, we have many different audiences with many different backgrounds and knowledge. So we are talking with an ecosystem of donors and partners, investors, that they know more about the space. Yeah. So we could go deeper in terms of the technical side and other business aspects of Impact Market. And then I had to learn about all of these in order to translate these into posts and articles and all the content that we were creating. But on the other hand, we had around 50,000 users all around the world from vulnerable communities who often sometimes barely know how to read, who didn't have digital literacy, financial literacy. So how are you going to explain to those people that, okay, now you need to create a crypto wallet, and then you need to have an exchange, and then you need to do this change, and then they were receiving a stable coin. So I had to learn what it was a stable coin, because first I just knew about Ethereum and Bitcoin, and suddenly there was like all of this new bunch of assets. But then again, I need to learn what it is in order to translate these in the most friendly way, also to the end users. And then, yeah, there was definitely a very enriching process all around. And then also to understand, there was also this aha moment of understanding. Whenever we started using the internet and it became something more mainstream, I don't know how Netflix works. I don't know how Facebook or Instagram, how it works technically. Why do I need to know technically, like, how to use a wallet? When I'm using a normal bank, I don't need to know all of the processes related to this. So yeah, we are still in this learning curve, and there is a lot to be developed in this sense in terms of making things better, more user-friendly and easier to understand. But I was very happy that in the communication side of working with blockchain, there is this mission of translating what is hard and technical and sometimes like overwhelming into into an information that people can understand. So, well, by working with communication, with marketing, I see that there is like this mission of how we can also help onboarding people into Web3 by making it friendly, by overcoming barriers that you think, oh, it's not for me, as I was in the beginning thinking that was like too technical. How we can make sure they understand they can be useful in their daily lives. It's something that makes sense to them. So you don't need to, you go to a refugee community and implementing such a work. You're not talking, oh, then this is this crypto that it's this and it's based on this blockchain. And then you have this seed phrase, and they're like, no, oh, it's money. It's a digital money. You know, the dollar. So the money it changes because the amount of the dollar and stuff. You just send this to this place, and bam, you use. It's money. So, and then, well, whenever you give people the opportunity, it's also a nice learning in the sense that, for example, with these specific communities that didn't have much like digital financial literacy, how we can be open to listen to them as well and learn from them, because sometimes you might think, okay, we're getting there with a nice technology, with this knowledge that they don't know. But then once you're humble enough to listen to them, to see how they transform the information also to their way of communicating in their community, in their country, in their language. You learn so much from them. It's not often you take this as a feedback to improve your product, but in the communication side, we were learning so much with them, how they were translating as well, even though we were trying to simplify as much as possible the content, how they were renaming things and using things to make it better. So yeah, whenever we were implementing something on the ground, they just make things better. So better than we have developed, better than we have thought. So yeah, that's definitely a super enriching experience in this sense.
Well, that's great. Really, that's amazing. And I think, yeah, you're totally right. It's definitely about the right communication and also communicating, I think, in a way that infuse trust, because one of the biggest barrier, I think, also for people not to understand is maybe they don't want to understand it because they don't necessarily trust the technology behind it. Because after, I think it's kind of like a spiral, you know, like they don't trust, so they don't understand, but they don't understand because they don't want to trust, etc. So I think it's as you perfectly said, having the right communication, the right marketed communication for everyone is the way to actually, you know, implement it. Do you have a story actually to tell maybe of a group of people you actually onboarded and that you learned from, as you were saying in the last just 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, so it was also one of the nice things of working with the communication in there. So we had this pillar of educating the users. We had the goal of sharing all of the business and the technical stuff for these other personas that we were targeting. But then I was supporting with onboarding and some other points. And I just forgot what you asked. Okay.
Do your dance now. No,
Yeah.
no, if,
yeah. The experience with
exactly. If they gave you feedback, basically, that helped you to adjust and also maybe better your own communication style for the next group of people that you would onboard.
Yes, because I think in hyperlinks, so like I was just thinking, it just escalates, and I was thinking about, because of one of the things of having contact with them, and that's how I was on that direction, was also getting to know the testimonials and sharing their experiences, how what we were doing was impacting their lives. So we always try to have a very close relationship with the communities, both from the onboarding process, and you said it all about the trust is also something very important when you're dealing with the users as a whole. So from understanding who are the local leaders that we would rely on to help us on the onboarding, and then often the younger people would be supporting the others because they were having it was easier for them to navigate through these new solutions of helping the others. We were often having calls with the communities, so both with the leaders and also the other users that from that community, and going through like each step necessary for them to start using the solutions. So that helped us a lot to understand how they were thinking, understanding their flows, and having this close experience of understanding how it was impacting their lives. So there is, for example, in terms of stories of some of these communities, there is one in Guatemala. And then sometimes when you think about such a project helping on financial inclusion, you think about some direct aspects of, also, okay, I'm starting to have more access funds to buy food and pay for my basic expenses. But then there was some other aspects that we didn't anticipate, and it was like so amazing in the sense this Guatemala community, they have something that's called comadronas, that are like some midwives that in the community, some traditional healers that are part of the community. Okay. But then this tradition is like soon disappearing because they don't really have an incentive of the government. They are not paid, and the community is very poor, so they're not really paid. So those who usually were becoming midwives, they were getting other jobs. So it's a tradition that is like at a risk of disappearing. And then they play such an important role in their communities because they're quite remote, far from hospitals, far from normal medical care. And then there are these midwives beyond helping the woman in their birth, on the whole pregnancy. They were giving a support to the community as a whole whenever you have any disease. So whenever they started receiving the basic income, they saw how these were also making an impact because these comadronas, they could be rewarded and then having an incentive to keep doing this work and having more resources to do their work by supporting the community. So you see how whenever you use these tools available to empower these communities, to have this financial inclusion, you have an impact that is beyond what you expect in terms of valuing ancient traditions of these communities and so much. So yeah, there was so many another overwhelming stories that from, with this unconditional basic income I received, I could buy educational supplies and go back to school. I could pay the school fees of my kids and they could go back to school until like very extreme cases and more like Afghanistan, some other places where we were supporting in which we received testimonials of girls saying, okay, thanks to now that we have this money to buy food, I was not sold and forced to get married because I was going to be sold so my family couldn't afford for another kid, and then my family would get money also if I was sold to get married. So you get like, wow, there is a lot of nice things in crypto and a lot of nice projects. But if I can be involved with such a thing that makes this difference in the life of people, I just really can't think about myself doing anything else.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And I'm super curious to know, is there any, is there any barrier for entry for you to work with those communities? I don't know, do you need to get in touch with the government of the country or I don't know, or you just say, okay, let's put the universal basic income like this, or how does it work, like legally speaking, you know?
Yes, there are many different aspects and depends a lot on the country, on the place. So there are countries that are much easier, everything in terms of the laws, in terms of the solutions they might need. So in terms of penetration of access to internet or a smartphone, to have a crypto wallet, to have access to the tools. Brazil was the one that we first started, Impact Market first started, because it was much easier in the sense, even though there's a lot of communities, vulnerable communities, it was easier to implement such solutions. But there are other places, such, for example, Afghanistan, in which you have Taliban, you have, so you need really to understand how you can, sometimes not make a lot of noise. For some things, you even need to have some kind of permission from that system to implement such a thing. And then we were working, Impact Market is working with local NGOs or even international organizations, and then that's a way also how we can build this trust, because they have their NGO in there, they have the local leaders who already have been working with these communities, so they know how things work in there. So and then the Impact Market was focusing mainly on these countries that, can make an impact, but how we can navigate the legal. It's not forbidden. We don't want to put anyone in risk by receiving the thing. So in some places, even something hidden. In Afghanistan, we couldn't definitely, whenever posting such as the stories of the beneficiaries, we had to cover all the faces because they couldn't be identified. If they weren't identified, they could have some potential harm. So there's so much to think and try to overcome when implementing this in a global scale in such challenging environments.
Yeah, but you made it happen. And you are making it happen. And even though if it's a kind of step-by-step process, this is what that counts, is that you're doing something about it, and you Impact Market and also ReFi are doing something about it, and progress is the way anyways, and I don't know if we can have mass adoption over something like that, you know, but it's those actions that really matter to create then like foundation and establish better foundation for our future. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. And then by being part of the ReFi movement, so what is this ReFi movement? It's not a code. It's okay. I guarantee it's super fine. But it's really like inspiring people how we can do good. And then you don't need to be an environmentalist, an activist, or absolutely involved with an NGO, but everything we do can be somehow focused on making a positive impact. So as a marketer, as a lawyer, as well. And then in ReFi, there is, for example, ReFi DAO, and there is this global network of local nodes. And then these local nodes are communities thinking that ReFi is like a global movement, and then but with these local roots, because every location has its own needs and dynamics and priorities. We have ReFi Lisbon here then, that is the first local node created by the ReFi DAO, and then organizing events, trying to also help creating this critical mass and discussion, and then advocate, share about this use cases, empowering projects that would like to get involved with somehow, and also the people in the ecosystem, how they can get involved in these projects doing impact and making some impactful activities specifically. So yeah, there is a lot of ways of getting involved to this movement.
Are you doing any event of ReFi Lisboa soon? Because I know we went to the Christmas one, which is amazing. We gathered, you know, the community of Lisbon, and there was a lot of donation given to charity, raising awareness also on the future of Web3, being more mindful, I would say, if I can just englobe it. When is the next event?
So it will be the 21st of March at the block.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So like in 1 week, 2 weeks?
Around 2 weeks.
Great.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
yeah,
let's all go. Okay.
Yes, it'll be nice. And then we are going to be discussing how it's ReFi this next bull market. So where ReFi stands in this, and a bit of the possibilities and potentials that can be explored in this new moment of the market that we are hoping will be better soon. And so the 21st of March, okay. And then
we'll be there.
Yes, and then it was really nice, this event that we did with you in December, and getting this food and donating to the NGO. This year we want to do more impact with our events, and not only panels like this, but for example tree planting, beach cleaning, and then this will be some nice moment of how we can also relate with impact. We can relate with Web3, do some hypercerts, minting, and NFTs, popes, activating these while putting our hands on earth, while helping our environment somehow, and helping NGOs in other ways.
That's amazing. So do you have one last word to say for the Web3 Women Summit? Concerning anything, woman, this movement, Web3, woman in Web3 actually.
Yes, I really hope to see more women to the space, more women building, creating, innovating, and building for a more inclusive ecosystem as a whole. And just understand, like, whenever we join forces, we can create something so powerful, and we definitely have this strength. We're women, right?
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Thank you so much, Susane.
Thank you.
It's much easier for women to enter Web3 space rather than tech industry. I don't know why, but maybe it's historically